15 Interesting Oregon Facts. Oregon has been inhabited for at least 13,000 years. On February 14, 1859, Oregon, also known as the Beaver State, became the 33rd state to join the Union. The states of Idaho, California, Washington, and Nevada border Oregon. It is the 9th largest state in terms of size, covering a combined 98,381 square miles, 254,806 square kilometers, of land and water. Salem, the state's capital, is located in the state's western region, just south of Portland. The Paleo-Indians, as they are commonly known, are thought to have been the first people to settle in the Americas. Around 2015 to 13,000 BC, these earliest settlers crossed the Bering Strait from the far east of what is now known as Russia into North America. At least 13,200 years ago, Paleo-Indian activity was first detected in the area that is today known as Oregon. The earliest conclusive proof comes from a pair of bark sandals found in a cave close to Fort Rock, Oregon, despite the fact that there are numerous signs that they may have been present in this area for even longer. The first record of Europeans coming anywhere close to modern-day Oregon dates back to 1543, when Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo's Spanish exploration ship passed southern Oregon. Later, in 1592, a different Spanish ship under the command of renowned Greek cartographer and maritime pilot Ioannis Phokas would map the area in much more detail. Many ships would pass by the Oregon coast in the ensuing centuries, but very few would set foot on land. In a deal now known as the Louisiana Purchase, the United States of America bought a sizable portion of land from France in 1803. President Thomas Jefferson hired Lewis and Clark to explore this largely uncharted land, map it, and record all the plants and animals they came across. They didn't arrive at the Pacific coast until 1805, after passing through what is now Oregon. Fort Clatsop, a log cabin fort in Oregon, was where Lewis and Clark spent the winter. Many different tribes coexisted peacefully in the area when the first Europeans arrived in what is now Oregon in the 16th century. The original Native American inhabitants of the area initially welcomed Europeans and European Americans with open arms as they moved into the area to profit from the lucrative fur trade. The first record of Oregon being used as a name appears in a history about Alta and Baja California, regions of New Spain that once included present-day Oregon, written by New Spaniard Rodrigo Montezuma. The term Orejon is used in this chronicle, possibly to refer to at least some areas of the Oregon region. The area is said to have been given the French name Oregon, which means windstorm or hurricane, because of the state's windy regions along the Columbia River. The European settlement of Oregon started much later than many other parts of North America. By the time it took place, the USA had already taken root in the East and Great Britain still had ties to the area around present-day Vancouver. In the early 19th century, the two powers expanded into the area to take advantage of the rich fur trade, though not without strife. The area was known as Oregon Country during this time and Columbia District during that of Great Britain. The Oregon Treaty was ratified by the United States and Great Britain in 1846 as war loomed. With the signing of this agreement, Great Britain gained control over the disputed territory's northern regions, and the USA gained what are now the states of Oregon and Washington. The following year, 1848, saw the creation of Oregon Territory. Every 6 months that an African American was discovered in the area, they were whipped. Anyone who arrived in the area with enslaved African Americans could keep them there for a maximum of 3 years before having to remove them. It wasn't always the case that Portland was praised as one of the most livable cities in the U.S. Early in the 19th century, Portland rapidly expanded as a port city as a result of a successful lumber industry. When most people think of Oregon, they picture endless, evergreen forests. Vast lava fields and high-altitude deserts are located to the state's central and eastern regions. The magnificent Cascade Ranges, a chain of mountain ranges created by intense volcanic activity, cut the state in half. Parts of the coastal region are categorized as rainforests, in contrast to the eastern deserts. With about 60% of the total area being covered in forest, much of the state's natural beauty is still unspoiled. Portland has more breweries than any other city in the world, which is one factor. The craft beer industry began to take off in Portland in the 1980s, making it a relatively recent entrant in the beer world. The fact that the lake is filled with rain and snowmelt is what gives its water its incredible vibrant hue. Its name is Armillarios toi, or honey mushroom, and experts estimate its age to be at least 2,400 years. For thousands of years, this colony of honey mushrooms has been expanding throughout the Malheur National Forest in the east of Oregon. The fact that this enormous organism kills trees it comes into contact with and produces golden mushrooms nearby makes it fairly easy to spot. The world's largest single living thing is a colony of honey mushrooms that covers an area of the forest that is 2,200 acres, 880 hectares. Dick Fagan, a veteran of World War II, relocated to Portland, Oregon, in 1946 to pursue a career in journalism. The hole became the smallest park in the world when Dick decided to fill it with flowers and call it a city park. He gave the park the name Millens Park and wrote several columns for the Oregon Journal about it. Idiotville was merely a tiny lumber camp established far in the west of Portland's Willamette Forest. Reaching Idiotville required traveling through the forest for several days, and the salvage workers' efforts were frequently in vain.